So a few months ago I did a video listing my top 10 worst missions in Bully, and it seems some people want to hear my 10 best missions, so here it is. But before I begin, I'm changing a few things up. Firstly, I'm only doing 2 story missions from each chapter, in order, because rewatching my previous worst missions video, I can't help but notice that 5 out of the 10 missions I listed were from chapter 3, mostly Scholarship Edition exclusive missions. So to prevent overwhelming bias, I'm restricting myself to 2 main missions per chapter, so let's begin with chapter 1. Number 1, Save ALGIE. Now Save ALGIE is far from the most intense mission that Bully has to offer, but that does not mean it's a bad mission at all. I think it's a great starter mission to get used to the map for newer players, and introduces us to our first parody character, Algernon, who does a great job at being annoying and setting the tone for the kind of humour that Bully has, which is light-hearted satire. The mission itself is very slow paced and introduces newer players to all kinds of things they may not have seen yet, such as time restrictions, interacting with other clicks in a positive manner, understanding the radar, which I will admit that when I first played this mission back in 2008, I took ALGIE to the downstairs girls' bathroom because I was a moron who didn't read the notice about the radar. The mission is also one of the few missions that has some great attention to detail in it for a 2006 game, like how if you take ALGIE to the wrong bathrooms or take a different path when trying to get into the school and all that. I also really do like the music in this mission too, as it sounds so innocent yet mischievous, upbeat, and fits in really well with the whole mission theme and objective. Number 2, Halloween. I feel it's best experienced on the PS2, but I love how it genuinely feels like Halloween, with the atmosphere being dark and slightly foggy, and with that Halloween tint of orange around the academy. It does actually feel like the town of Bullworth is getting ready to celebrate Halloween, and that's before we even start the mission. Once we start the mission, we see the entire academy become decorated, which to my knowledge hasn't happened in any Rockstar game before or since Bully. I guess you can count Christmas and GTA Online as well, but it's a breath of fresh air. And once we start the mission, pretty much all the students are in costume, prefects nowhere to be seen, well, unless we decide to beat Sheldon up, but Rockstar perfectly nailed the atmosphere with this. The lack of a clock in this mission makes this mission special, since we can actually keep Halloween going as long as we really want to. It actually feels like we have a night of pranks awaiting for us, and one to remember. I also really like the addition of how anybody will be playing pranks, even non-click girls, who would never throw a firecracker at somebody outside of this one mission, to preps, to jocks, and pretty much everyone in between. It's just kind of a shame that the events of Halloween are never mentioned again. Now let's move on to Chapter 2, with my first favourite mission of Chapter 2 being the Preps Challenge. Now most of you will probably be surprised to see this one on here, but I feel I should have specified my favourite click challenge, as my worst missions list contained, well, technically my 3 worst. But anyway, I'll keep this one short and sweet, but the reason I like this is because it's the first actual main mission which actually gives us a completely new way of playing, which is boxing. Now for newer players it might throw them off a bit expecting a mission with Gord, but instead you're actually boxing. Now while boxing isn't the hardest thing to do, it's a great way of Rockstar introducing us to what we can actually do in Bully's world, a bit like the mission with Caesar in GTA San Andreas where CJ partakes in a lowrider contest. Alongside introducing us to these missions which let us have a new home instead of trotting it back to the dorm. It didn't even feel forced either, as Gord did actually invite Jimmy to the gym at the beginning of Chapter 2, so it wraps up kinda nicely in my opinion. Plus, bonus points to the Wii version only for this, but it puts the Wii mode to even better use. Rockstar really should have made Rockstar Games Presents Bully Boxing a Wii exclusive. Number 4, Tad's House. So when the mission starts, I love how Russell, the schoolboy, is holding a man twice his age by the throat with no trouble at all. And the best thing is, we don't even know what actually led to this scenario, but it's probably for the best we don't actually know this. Anyway, I like the simplicity of this mission. It's just stereotypical teenage hijinks, going around and throwing eggs at somebody's house while also knocking the snot out of anybody who dares come looking for the vandal. It's one of the missions I feel which actually captures Bully's teenage mischief incredibly well. It's also not difficult at all either. I mean, all you gotta do is just remain sneaky and let Russell deal with the preps around the yard. Now one of the challenges I always try to give myself in this mission is just to never get spotted, and that goes for Russell too. I feel that it makes the mission so much more better as you're stealthily getting your revenge on Tad. I also love Tad's last response of
"That's it! He hit the Kostabi! Everyone, get that damn vandal!"
And of course, as you're getting chased down the street by pretty much every prep in the country, well, not the country in Bullworth, but you know what I mean, while the mission pass jingle plays. Number 5, Wrong Part of Town. Now the Wrong Part of Town is one of the most unique missions in all of Bully, as we have conflict between the nerds and the greasers, which is something never actually mentioned in the story before, alongside a rare mid-mission cutscene, and the only mission where you're actually doing a Guardian Angel style mission while actually moving at a fast speed, which actually gives it a bit of challenge. Overall, I think Wrong Part of Town is a great mission for story and character development. but having Gary appear in this mission gives off the sense of what he's actually up to behind the scenes, which is spreading rumours and lies to torment others, and fits in incredibly well with his character, as well as showing us how dangerous Johnny Vincent can actually be, as we know from the previous missions. The mission also does a great job at showing how great of an antagonist Lola can actually be, as she's flirting with both ALGIE and Chad to get good grades and money, but ultimately ends up making life for them hell, as it angers Johnny in getting the greasers to come and beat them up in a really dangerous way, much like he did with Gordon Bate, by luring him to an abandoned park just to beat him up where no one can really help him. It's kind of worrying to think that if Jimmy didn't help in this mission, ALGIE and Chad probably would have suffered the same fate. Number 6. The Tenements. Now, my reasons for liking the Tenements is a bit of a strange one, but I feel the Tenements is a rather special mission in Bully solely for Norton's mid-mission boss fight. When you get confronted by Norton, it's a really strange surprise. To my knowledge, this is the only mission in the game where Jimmy is actually ambushed by somebody wielding an actually dangerous weapon, which is a sledgehammer. A far big difference compared to the slingshots and stink bombs we're used to. In all fairness a sledgehammer is probably the deadliest weapon in the game, surpassing even Grand Theft Auto's crowbars and baseball bats. To me, Norton's boss fight is a very small glimpse into Bully's original level of violence before it was toned down to avoid getting banned and whatnot. If you want to know how violent Bully was going to be originally, check out Bully Beta. Anyway, I also love the interior to the Tenements too. It also gives us a small insight into where the greasers hang out in their spare time, a dirty, destroyed, run-down building, and it actually feels dangerous to actually be in here, as Jimmy by himself is surrounded by, as he puts it, a bloodthirsty mob of angry greaseballs, with no one to actually help him. It'd be like if Carl Johnson willingly went into an apartment complex for the ballers. The soundtrack in this mission is also one of the best in the game, as it fits in well with the run-down, destroyed building theme, and if you're heavily into music, which I am not, so I'm not going to be a poser with this, some of you might recognise Norton Williams' boss theme as being Human Flied by the Cramps. My only gripe with this mission is just the Tenements building itself. The building's outside to inside is really off, but hey, it makes up for it in fun and soundtrack. Well, that, and you also can't keep the sledgehammer either. Number 7. Stronghold Assault. You know, I was actually surprised when I did my worst missions video that so many people hated this mission. This is one of the few missions in the game I found to be genuinely difficult when I first tried it. Mostly because you're lured into a trap, and once you pass that gate, it actually shuts on you. So if you don't have your weapon arsenal ready, you won't be in for a good time. You can't just head back to your dorm and use your chemistry set. Anyone who knows my opinions on Bully knows I find the game to be incredibly easy and could do with a bit more difficulty sometimes, and I feel Stronghold Assault manages that perfectly without cranking the difficulty up to 11. With the exception of spud guns and stink bombs, you're very limited on what weapons you can actually pick up in this mission as well. I also like how the mission throws you off on how tough the nerds are. Like, you're not expecting them to actually be tough, but when armed with spud guns, they are. I'll admit that when I first played this on the PS2, I was actually stuck on the Ernest part. Not the fight, but the part of him shooting at us and we have to destroy the Transformer. I was actually stuck at that part for about 2 days because I was an idiot who didn't know how to take cover and tried to take Ernest completely head on. Overall, this mission is completely fantastic for length and difficulty. Number 8. The Big Game. One of my favourite types of missions in games are infiltration missions, where you go undercover against a group you're looking to attack or destroy something, much like the mission Copland in GTA Vice City or I Put a Spell on You from Fallout New Vegas. Now, while Bully's version isn't about blowing things up... Oh, okay, I guess it is. Guess I'm just a sucker for missions where you go undercover to blow something up then. Anyway, this mission is one of the funniest ones in the game in my opinion, from Dan killing Kirby to Kirby drinking Jimmy's piss and everything in between. It's nice to see what Jimmy's sabotaging is actually doing rather than it being forgotten about or just casually mentioned for no reason at all. I don't know if it's just me, but I feel the atmosphere of this mission as well actually gives off the impression that it is a big day, as we see the jocks training and preparing for their match, as well as it being a big day for Ernest, who spent months planning this ultimate humiliation, and the nerds who are all cleverly hidden, waiting and praying that Jimmy doesn't screw it all up. Another thing I like about this is how the mission is one of the few missions, the other being complete mayhem and character sheets, where you actually get to choose what order you do the mission in. Now that's nothing special, but it's just a nice touch in my opinion. Now, a bit like Save ALGIE, this mission has some really nice attention to detail in it. Like during this mission, everybody except the nerds hate you, because they believe you're not Jimmy, but instead they believe you're Konstantinos, the guy you beat up for the mascot costume. So for this mission, greasers and preppies would attack you on sight. The only thing I dislike about this mission is how often you are forced through that bloody cow dance. It's just annoying for the 3876th time. Number 9. Busting In Part 2. Now, Busting In Part 2 is probably the most intense Bully actually gets, as we launch an assault on the townies' hideout. And it also begins with Russell Northrop launching a suicide attempt into the barrels locking the gate. It's just really awesome to see a scene like this in Buddy. It goes from 0 to 100 in about 5 seconds flat, and back to 25 when we see Russell is alive and well. Anyway, as for the mission itself, I think it's a perfect setup for this point in the game, as we have the non-fighting assistance of Zoe, and we have to single-handedly launch an attack on a power plant, and if we screw up, it's back to Russell cheating death. And we have to do it all over again. Now, I know that might be a bit controversial, as some people will get pissed off at being knocked out by Omar and having to redo everything again, but I feel that having checkpoints should have been an option in Buddy at the start. Well, and of course Rockstar's other games as well. The only actual checkpoint we get, if you can even call it that, is when we actually fight Edgar, when the mission ends and we're doing Edgar's boss fight. As far as I'm aware, busting in part 2 is also the only mission in the game that has a rather big portion of the map blocked until it's beaten, as opposed to beating a chapter, which I actually think is unique, as most players at this point would be familiar with the map of Bulworth. But having this mission take place in a brand new area adds a new level of fun to the game. This mission is a fantastic build up to get to Edgar, and I think that is probably the best setup Buddy has to offer. Like, we're actually going for Edgar instead of Edgar appearing out of nowhere, like a certain preppy leader did at the end of their chapter. It also just shows how dedicated Jimmy can be when he really wants to teach somebody a lesson. And finally, Complete Mayhem. Complete Mayhem is vetted out the best mission that Buddy has to offer. From a gameplay view, I love the chaos that's happening, and it's a nice change from the peacefulness of the academy, and actually gives off a sense that something is seriously wrong, and Rockstar did great in actually managing to change the tone from this being a light-hearted schoolyard game into this sense of violent conflict. But from a story point of view, it's also great because it shows just how dangerous of a character Gary Smith can be. And while Buddy isn't exactly the most lore-deep game ever, Gary single-handedly caused this entire riot. It makes Gary seem a lot more dangerous, not exactly somebody who's dangerous as, say, Trevor Phillips, but it shows how unstable he really is, going as far as to type the headmaster and get other students put in mental hospitals and all that. Okay, those events aren't exactly exclusive to this mission, but I think it's a great send-off to Gary's character. Plus, the glitch to escape the academy also makes this mission so much more fun, as it turns the fight from contained to school into the Battle of Bulworth, when you see all the cliques beating each other up outside Bulworth's town hall. It's also just funny imagining how a small fight between about 50 students somehow makes a whole town cower up and hide, to the point even the police don't do anything. Realistically speaking, however, a scrap outside the town hall wouldn't make the residents of Bulworth cower away like that. My only gripe for the mission is that everybody just ignores Jimmy and Russell, except the group leaders, but I think if the factions actually paid to Jimmy and Russell during this mission, it would definitely be a 10 out of 10 mission. I'd also say it's a very accurate representation of what Buddy would be like if it had an official online mode. So that's my list of my 10 best missions in Buddy from, well, 2 from each chapter. I know my list might be a bit more different from everybody else's, but I hope you enjoyed and thank you for watching.